action. Hello, I'm Luke Darcy and welcome to Access All Areas. There's plenty to look at from the weekend, and Damien Barrett, as I welcome you. A lot of the talk right now, I should say, is what is going to happen to Mark Neild. What are your thoughts? Is he going to be in strife?
G'day, Darcy. Yeah, he is. The decision has already been made by that Melbourne Footy Club board that he will not be coaching in 2014. It's just now a matter of if they actually execute that decision at today's board meeting. And that is the crucial element out of what's going to happen from a public sense going forward. I believe they will. I believe Peter Jackson has already made that decision internally that he will not be there in 2014. He's not a person to be balking at the tough decisions that have to be made. And while I believe that today is bringing forward his time frame on this happening with Mark Neild, it's not something he's going to balk at too much.
So sitting here right now, Damo, there is a board meeting going to take place at 2 o'clock today. Your belief is that Mark Neild won't be there at the end of today?
My take on what I believe Peter Jackson to be, Darcy, is someone who is not going to be afraid to make the tough call. He has decided that. There are other people on that board who have decided that. And I've got no reason to think they won't actually execute that decision today. Now, again, it may play out. Let's face it, this board has moved and changed its mind as often as the wind changes. They themselves need to be totally accountable for what's happened here. And that goes to the president, Don McClarty, who has overseen some horrendous decisions. He will not be part of this regime going forward either. I believe a man called Jeff Freeman will be that person who will be the new president over the next couple of weeks. And Peter Jackson, there's a lot of pressure on him to actually accept a permanent role on that board, on that CEO position. That also could happen as soon as today.
So that's a couple of big calls. Change of president, potentially Jeff Freeman, coach gone, and maybe a CEO that's going to stay for the long term. Tell us what's gone wrong at Melbourne, Damo, from your point of view. And I also want to ask you, does the payout figure become an issue as well in this?
Yeah, it does. I mean, estimates are that Mark Neild's on about $400,000 a year. He will argue, and his people representing him will argue, that he gets that full rack rate paid out. So $400,000 for 2014 and whatever's left of 2013. We're probably looking at about $600,000. And then you've got Neil Craigdas, who may well end up being the interim coach for the remainder of this year, should that decision go that way today. Yep. But he's under as much pressure as Mark Neild. He hasn't delivered on what he was meant to do when he was first appointed as well. He's got the issue with the doctor issue. Dr. Dan Bates failed to pass on information to the footy club and the AFL, which is of a serious nature to many people involved in this whole footy club.
You talk about Mark Neild and what's gone wrong. The recruiting, it was questioned right from the start. Experienced players coming in. Do you think that's one of the key issues that's gone against him?
Well, we used the word scattergun at the time, Dust, didn't we? And that's exactly what it was. I mean, let's bang through them. Gillies, Roden, Burns and Pedersen. They are not going to change the big picture of any structure of a footy club with where they're at their careers. Mark Neild certainly drove those decisions at recruiting last year. He actually went to the point of actually changing the philosophy at the footy club at the time and forcing changes to be made where 4 men came into the club who were never going to change the big picture. They were going to help him out at best in 2013, but never beyond that point. And as we know, they haven't even helped him out in 2013.
Assuming it does happen and Mark Neild is not there, whether it's today or at the end of the year, what type of coach do they go for, Damo?
Well, you might have a different view, Dus. My view is that they cannot follow Dean Bailey into Mark Neild with another untried coach. To me, it just simply has to be someone who is not going to worry about a win-loss record for probably 2 years. The person who's very gettable is not the sexiest pick. I mean, Paul Roos is that person in terms of being able to sell this footy club. He's not going to take the Melbourne Footy Club job. Rodney Eade is a person I would give serious consideration to. He has not quite got to the absolute pinnacle as a coach. He's gone very close and he's been a very good coach. To me, he's very gettable of all those range of coaches who've been there and done it.
Yeah, I can understand where you're going. I still think that you can't have a narrow-minded view this time around. If you open up the process and you get a young, inexperienced coach who comes in, who's a brilliant leader with great presence, the way we've seen Chris Scott go about it, Brad Scott go about it, we've got Nathan Buckley at Collingwood. If there's someone around, I don't think you can discount that. Having said that, I'm a big fan of Rodney Eade and I can understand where you go. I want to take a look, Damo, at how it's unfolded on the field at the moment because it is just unravelling by the minute. Here's Luke Bruce in the game for the weekend. Now, every team in the land knows that when someone's going to play, he's able to waltz around, take as much time as he likes. Dean Turlich, Nathan Jones, with their back to the mark. You just have to understand that you've got to go and give some pressure and some presence there, and you can see Mark Neild's face in the coach's box. It just means that
you see some instances there, Das, where there's 6 opposition players stopping that kick, aren't there? I mean, Isaac Smith in the second quarter. Take us through what's happened here.
Well, look at him waltzing through. There's James Frawley. He's got the big job on Buddy Fratton. When a team's working cohesively, you leave your man and someone has to come at Isaac Smith. Well, James Frawley has to come at him. He's too concerned about...
Where's his instinct gone, Darcy? He was an All-Australian player.
Well, he just has gone into his shell. Now, this is a basic error that could happen to anyone. Rowan Bale is the man in question, but totally devoid of confidence, the whole group. There is a complete lack of cohesion, and it's basically just unravelled. Now, this, to me, there's a bit of comedy attached to this, but I reckon it sums up where Melbourne are at. Free kick goes Melbourne's way. This is one of their really good players for me, Jeremy Hanna. Kicking it back is Rowan Bale. You want to get the ball back as quick as you can. It's a 15-metre kick to the man, actually, so he can play on, that he's missed by 10 metres. I mean, you shouldn't laugh, because it's actually pretty sad what's happening in Melbourne. But you can't... You can't kick the footy that bad. My 8-year-old has to be able to kick it 10 metres. So, unfortunately, that's where they're at. Adam Goods on the weekend, Damo.
Yeah, 4 goals, Das, in a really good performance. Interestingly, this game had started when this handshake between Joe Watson and he took place. So I can't recall seeing that happen in a footy game before. With respect for Burton Woods, Das, he ran 60 metres in this particular passage of play simply to lay this tackle on Hibberd. It got him into the game. He hadn't done much to that point. Just astonishing stuff.
He's a superstar player. He's a superstar individual, and you know, I hope he was always going to play. It would have been a tragedy if for some reason that the effect on him was too great that he couldn't, and that's what champions do.
It was touch and go the day before, Das.
Yeah,
it was no better than 50-50, and that had been articulated to senior AFL people that he was, not guaranteed to actually play. Hey, another superstar, Gary Ablett, returned to the Cattery. Had quite first half, but this goal is one of his greatest.
It's one of the most remarkable kicks of a football that I've ever seen. He did it in 2009 in a similar position, Damo. No one in the game has got the centre of gravity or the core strength or the low body. I don't think there's any mistake in that. He understands that to get it to float through from there, you've got to kick it 80 metres high.
Right.
On an All-Australian defender there, his old teammate.
So imagine, because some people said yesterday it was a fluke, but...
No chance that there's any fluke in it when you're talking about this man here, who is just brilliant. I loved watching... Stevie J line up on him. I thought Chris Scott was brilliant in doing that, to allow the two brilliant players of the last 15 years to go head-to-head. They're great mates. They're probably as close to mates as any in their time at Geelong. So that was the first handshake before the ground. There's plenty of this going on. Talking about two of the most competitive animals that you'll ever see, and it just got a little bit willing at times, which I loved. I thought it was played in great spirit. The Geelong crowd were great. Stevie got the jump on him a bit, Damo, because he was the one that knew that he had the tagging role. This is Gazza talking to his girlfriend afterwards, and she's saying, hang on a minute, what's going on there? Remember he had that big boil on his head. I don't think it was a boil. I think it might have been a little inadvertent backhander that he copped.
Let's move on to Port Adelaide, Das. 5-0 after 5 games. Ken Hinkley was the Messiah. David Koch was even on a plane above the Messiah. 5 matches later, they're 5-5, and they're not being looked at as loftily.
Well, I think they are in the same sort of position as the Bulldogs. They're in the same position as emerging clubs that are going to have some bad moments and they're not getting smashed off the park. I think he's improving them steadily. Not surprising to me. He had a really good draw at the start of the year. Ken Hinkley is a gun. They're going about it in a fashion that doesn't concern me at all. Port Adelaide.
Have you got a beeline to Mark Evans, the new footy operations boss at the AFL? I ask because the free kicks are being let go.
And I love it, Damo. I think it's the greatest thing that we've seen since Mark Evans has come into the AFL. This is a man who was the footy operations director at footy operations manager at the Hawthorn Football Club. Everyone in football, Damo, for 10 years has been screaming out, please let the game play on. Don't play technical free kicks. Don't do it. And it's happening. It's great. We love it. Keep doing it.
Since he took over, there's been 10 less free kicks played per match between him taking over and the previous regime.
No coincidence
10
there.
per match less.
And I think the frustrating thing for people in football is that it is that easier solution. You go down the umpires and you just say, our new rule is 50-50 calls, you err on play on. And the umpires, I think, the feedback I'm getting from the umpires is that they didn't like paying technical free kicks. You can fix it quickly. It's a great thing. We all love it. Congratulations to Mark Evans and the umpires.
Hey, you torched Daniel Pearce last week for failing to shepherd properly. You've got another person you want to
worst shepherd that we'd seen in a long period of time. Now, I don't like doing it to Luke Ball, who's one of my favourites, but Bally, when you handball off to the captain, you want to put a bit of body behind. Jack Redden runs him down. Bally just went to sleep here, and Jack Redden, who I like a lot, that has taken Daniel Pearce's place as the worst shepherd of the year. We might keep them going, I reckon, right throughout season 2013. Thanks, Damo. Hey, little heads up, due to the Queen's birthday clash next week between the Pies and the Demons. That's on a Monday, so you'll catch us on a Tuesday. So jump onto afl.com.au next Tuesday for access all areas. We'll catch you then. Have a good week. Goodbye.